Auschak, Herman,
Here.
Mattsdorf,
Here.
Gilson,
Here.
Hildebrand,
Here.
Pankwitz,
Here.
Binder,
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from May 27th, 2025. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a first and a second to approve the minutes from May 27, 2025. Any discussion? Clerk will call, or all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 3, investment reallocation recommendation. Tonight, we have a presentation, and we have Chris here from our Plymouth Utilities. Chris, why don't you start things off, and then you can go from there.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. And really, like Mayor had stated, these are just some investment updates, and mainly just in regards to some reallocation of some of our current investments that we're looking at. So I'll just dive right in with just a nice summary for you. So what we're going to be recommending to the committee here and to council is that we reallocation a portion of our current investments into ATC, or American Transmission Company, to meet their 2025 Q3 voluntary additional capital calls, or VACCs, as they're referred to. Since 2001, Plymouth has been a 0.28 to 0.305% owner in ATC. On average, especially in recent history, you're going to be looking at 10.48% for that rate of return on ATC. Historically, especially in recent history here too, all the voluntary capital calls have been met from ATC cash distributions that we've been able to reinvest into the company there. And then Q3 VACC, that capital call, will mark that first time, especially in recent history, where now those cash distributions aren't enough to meet what they need for a capital call for this portion. Just a little bit of update on some of our other current investments that we have. A lot of them we're going to be looking at primarily some of those municipal bonds, treasury bonds, CDs. Right now, we're at average rate of returns of 4% to 5.5%. Some of the most recent ones that have come up with maturities here are looking at 4.2 to 4.55%. Right now, those investments are managed by Emers. So I know we got a few new council members here, and just a little bit of background for everyone as well. ATC was founded in 2001. It was the first multi-state transmission-only utility in the U.S. there. Right now, those owners consist of IOUs, or investor-owns, municipals like ourselves, and then some co-ops. So they operate on a federal and state regulatory basis. So on the federal side, they are regulated by FERC, so that's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. They're going to be the ones who are going through and regulating the rates and regulating the service on that side. And then the PSCW, or Public Service Commission of Wisconsin, those are the ones who regulate us. They're going to be looking at their transmission assets specifically in the state of Wisconsin. So right now, when they started, they were at $550 million back in 2001, and then as of 2023, they're looking at asset bases of about $6.5 billion. And where this is going to come into play here, they are the ones, they own, they operate, they build the transmission lines that are bringing the power to our current customers and our communities here. They're operating in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and parts of the UP. Just on the spreadsheet there, on the slides here, that green territory, when we're looking at the state of Wisconsin, that is where their operating territory resides for us. And then a little bit more background, just to kind of bring it all together, is back in the 90s, the state of Wisconsin really was looking to shore up its electric grid. There was worried at that time with fractured transmission lines, right, Plymouth Utilities, I'll get to that in a little bit. We had owned some, and you had a lot of more smaller ownership percentages from folks. And what they were really looking to is make sure that we have a nice unified grid for the state of Wisconsin that really brings that stability and that reliability. So in 1997, the state really made a big push that the current owners kind of divest those transmission assets and really have them form into ATC in that early 2001. And where that brings in Plymouth, that's going to be back in June of 2001. That is when Plymouth Utilities joined ATC officially. We transmissioned before then, we owned our own transmission lines, we maintained those, so we attributed those into ATC. At that time, we had an option whether to get them over at either the book value cost or the load factor cost. At that time, we went with the 1999 load ratio, which gave us that ownership percentage of that 2.789%. Just a little bit of information that Plymouth Utilities is only a distribution customer now. Right? So we provide our customers with that distribution. We do not have generation. We do not have transmission. So really, we are relying on ATC to bring that power to our community. Historically, we've always met these voluntary capital calls. And as of 12/31 of 2024, our 0.305% ownership equates to a book value of roughly a little over $8 million. Then the next slide here, I'm going to cut off just a little bit, but the main two items that we're going to be looking at in green is going to be the earnings net and our cash distribution net. So earnings, after our voluntary capital calls that we've met over the last 7 years, we are getting back $2.8 million in earnings when we're speaking strictly about that cash that's coming back to us out of that earnings. Those cash distributions have been $3 million. We've reinvested 1.39 of that back into ATC, so still net, we have been walking away over the last 7 years with $1.6 million. So jumping in, really some of the benefits that we have of being part of ATC and being the owners of ATC, number one is that, hey, we are distribution on our side of things. So we really are relying on those transmission lines to power our community on that side. The 10.48% of rate of return is very good, and it's additionally a very safe investment, which is what we want to see. Generally, we're seeing some of those more safe investments sitting in the 4 or 5% range. Being that ATC is a regulated electric utility on the Fed and state side, the safe part about that is they're always going to make sure that they're watching over them, that they're in a healthy financial position. And really, the most important side of all this is really for our customers. That additional cash flow of $1.6 million over the last 7 years and what we've received over the last 25 helps keep the rate low on that side. Really, we're still working through our first rate case in over 10 years that we have here. Our overall rate increase is going to be that 3.85. So when the average customer hits to that new bill, they're still working through it. As of right now, if it were to go through, you're going to be looking at that 6% increase. So that's $5 on your roughly monthly bill. When comparing that to We Energies, they are going up $12 in 2025 and another $12 in 2026. And then when looking at a line side, it's $6 in 2026 and $8 in 2027. So from our standpoint, I mean, really the nice part about that is those additional cash distributions are able to offset rising inflation costs that we've really seen over the last few years. As machines break down earlier than expected, we're able to use that additional cash flow to help pay for those things. And all of that just equates to helping keep those rates low for our customers. From the ATC side of things, why are they going to be increasing, especially since they've been able to meet with the cash distributions over the last 7 years? They're going to be looking at really shoring up their electrical grid. Over the last few years, especially in recent history here, we've seen a large increase in that usage and demand on our electric power grid there. That's going to be going to new line construction on their end, along with shoring up some of their existing lines. Kind of their outlook right now, 2025, they're looking at capital projects for $739 million. And then from 26 to 29, and in the future, they're looking at roughly about $1 billion worth of capital projects. So that's why we're seeing that increase in those capital calls. And really what we need and what we're looking for this year for 2025 is those cash distributions are projected to be $557,000 for this year. Total capital calls that they're going to be having, that third quarter is going to push us over the edge, and there isn't a fourth quarter one, so right now those total capital calls for 2025 are $720,000. So really what we're going to be looking for is that additional $163,000 of our existing investments to move over and fully meet those capital calls from ATC. The Q1 and Q2 capital calls have already been met for this year, and really that third quarter of $276,000 capital call
Thank you, Chris. If looking at your information, it would appear that Ehlers is in the ballpark of, say, 4 to 5% return on their investment portfolio that they manage for us. ATC, we are netting about 10.48, so it's almost double. It almost seems like a no-brainer that we would reallocate 163 or whatever it is from our current investment to ATC in order to meet our capital call and maintain the same position that we currently have and have had from day one. So it would seem prudent that we would continue the current call requirement and maintain our position, which helps solidify our 10% return. Now, the PSC regulates ATC in the state.
In the state of Wisconsin for their transmission assets, yes.
So, as a regulated utility, just as we are regulated, they have to get approval going through the application process and everything, no different than what you're submitting right now. And based on the PSC's review of the data and whatnot, they set that rate of return.
And slight adjustment, that rate of return is on the FERC side of things. Wisconsin is looking more at the actual transmission assets. So when they're looking at building, constructing, they're going to need that approval from the PSC to review those.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, the FERC on the federal side, they're going to be doing exactly what the PSC is doing for us.
So I would ask the council members for any comments. I think it seems like a good investment to take your recommendation and move some of our investments to a 10% rate rather than a 5% rate. And as each year goes along, we're not approving by doing this, a capital call infinite. It comes up, we approve it every year.
Correct. These additional items that have come above and beyond our normal process. As those
Okay.
capital calls have exceeded
Right,
the
yeah.
cash distributions.
And the history of our return, we're currently $1.6 million ahead of what we've invested on our return.
From a cash perspective, yes, yeah. Overall return, we're at that 2.8.
And Mayor, that's just over the past 7 years.
And that's just over the past 7 years. Yeah, that's not looking back to, since 2000.
That's pretty good.
Very good.
I'd like that
Where
number.
does that money go?
My pocket.
To go to
That's
utility?
that's utility.
Has to stay in the
Yeah.
utility.
Stays in the utility, and the utility, I would assume, uses it for controlling costs, increases. In essence, our customers are the beneficiaries of that net positive.
Correct.
Is that the way,
Yep.
easy way to say
That's
that?
the easiest way to say it.
Okay,
Mayor,
that's not my pocket.
Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, I'd just add that this will then, subject to recommendation from the committee, will come to council next. The reason for the quick turnaround is these capital calls come quickly from ATC, and they needed a response in like 3 weeks. So that's why
Okay.
this is moving.
So that's why it's in the committee of the whole.
And then, yeah, committee of the whole and then council.
John, you had a comment before we make a recommendation?
You made the comment that Plymouth Utility is basically a distribution utility.
Yeah.
How's that, is that true for most of the ones in our network that we belong to?
Mr. Ryan, you may be able to answer that a little bit.
As part
better
of,
yourself.
John, as part of WPPI, yes, those are distribution. There's a few that have generation. Like Kakana, right, has a hydro.
Kakana, Manitowoc,
Yep.
Marshfield, there's a few of them that have generation, but then they're part of that FERC also, that's a different asset of the utility.
So ATC is basically taking care of all their
Correct, the transmission.
transmission lines?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? We would need a recommendation to take this to council later tonight. Is that what I'm hearing from the council? Okay. We'll move it forward.
Yeah, I think we'd like a motion from the committee.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to take the recommendation of staff for the reallocation of investment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sandy,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Penkwitz,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Gilson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. It seems like a good net for us. That's very, very helpful. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion on planning for parks. Good evening, Kathy Austin, our director.
And specifically City Park, so that was left out, but on the agenda. So this is really for the city park planning process that was budgeted in the 2025 budget. So this year we'll be doing some planning for the city park, kind of the playground area, so the lower area, a potential expansion of a lap pool for the pool, a new restroom facility up by the band shell area, to make those bathrooms and have them be ADA accessible for all the activities that go up there. And then combining and re-renovating the playground equipment, better path connections down below. So all those are kind of possibilities, and we inserted just one potential design concept in the plan. Obviously that will have many tweaks to it throughout the process, but at least I wanted to let you know kind of what our design and our citizen comment will kind of look like over this year as we are continuing the planning process. So So the hope will be that we have a Parks Committee meeting here, either in July still or beginning of August, just to get them up to speed and give them the overview like I'm doing tonight. But we'll do that with the Parks Committee. Following that, the Parkitecture that we hired in March to kind of lead this is their specialty. We'll do a public open house, and at that open house, they'll have a couple concepts. People can say what they like about each one or what they don't like. They'll have multiple design boards that each citizen will get stickers for, and it'll be like a charade. Will they put the stickers on the items they like? Just so that we can gauge what kind of play equipment are people hoping for, what kind of bathroom facade, just kind of more of the aesthetic pieces of that and what they would like to see at the park. So at that point, the public will have their option to kind of give their first overview of what they would like to see. Then we'd come back, we would meet internally, kind of merge everyone's concepts together, go back to the Parks Committee to make sure that they're on the same page. And then we come back to the Committee of the Whole to kind of give you what was kind of decided and see what your guys' input is at that time as well. One thing, and I know he's in the audience tonight as well, one thing we'll look at too is updating and making improvements to the skateboard park area too. So that's kind of part of the whole process. Again, we don't need a motion tonight. I'm just providing you an update of the things that come in the next couple of months as this process moves forward. So if you guys have any input along the way of what you guys were hoping to see at City Park, let Tim or I know. Come to the public open houses, come to the Parks Committee meeting if you'd like, and give us your input that way as well.
Sounds interesting. Do you have, Director Austin, any budget number range in mind for kind of all-encompassing, and is there a priority thinking going on?
I don't. I think that'll come through the planning process. I know we are bonding for dollars in our next bond. Do you recall what those numbers are?
I think, and this is not the bond issuance that has just been approved, this will be next year, so it's just draft, but and as part of our debt plan, $1 million for City Park. If a lap pool is interested, that's gonna be more expensive, that's a $2 million project. But again, there's some flux in there depending on what council and the city would like to do.
Playground equipment is not cheap.
It is not, and I would say that that's probably one of our oldest playgrounds in the city of Lynn.
Yeah. It's just the nature of the beast, and it's getting more expensive,
It
unfortunately.
makes some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I like the stuff at Stair Lines Park.
I'm
Okay.
assuming the open houses will be ran similar to like the downtown design committee and like when there was the dam open house.
Yeah, I would say it's gonna be very similar in process, yes. Yep.
Any other comments or questions, John?
Just two. One is you probably have a lot of pickleballers there asking for some kind of courts there.
Yeah, again, the question will be, do you want to change the dynamic of the city park as well and how they could, we could look at how they would fit down there.
Yeah.
But is City Park the best park for that, or would it be better utilized at a different
Yeah.
facility?
And that leads to my second question. Looking at the picture you've got here, we're basically looking at the part that is called playground area right now. We're not gonna go in and knock down some trees and.
There's a few trees that'll be removed, but not many.
Not many.
Yeah, it'll be consolidating, rearranging. There is a couple, I think, because the path we have some drainage problems in some low areas down there. And one thing they'd like to do too is provide some sort of natural barrier between the rentable lower shelter and the playground, but still allow the visibility of the playground so if the kids are there, but still to provide some sort of privacy between those two. Like I said in my memo, there will be stuff done at the, kind of near the band shell. One thing too that might increase the cost is the pavement around the band shell is in pretty rough shape, so it would now be the time to also, you just want to repave that to make it more accessible and easier to walk for the events that are up there. So those are all things that, once we get into more of the design, we'll talk about those.
Is that band shell or a basement?
It does have outside has bathrooms there, but to get there, there's no ADA path to get to the lower shelters. And those bathrooms are not ADA either.
So we're including ADA bathroom upgrades for the entire park per se?
So those bathrooms, they're only open on special occasions that are underneath, they're not in the greatest shape. So that the ADA, the lower shelter bathrooms were remodeled probably in 2019 to be ADA, so those meet it. But again, the path from the upper down to that lower facility, that doesn't meet ADA slopes. And so what the plan would be is to build a separate restroom facility up near the cake stand area to provide those restrooms and have that be ADA up at the band shell area.
Oh, okay.
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. Again, any comments or questions, by all means, you can run those past Tim in the clerk's office or directly to Director
We'll see
Austin.
this many times before anything is finalized.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, this is just the first kind of introduction.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. It's good information. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. We stand adjourned till 7.
Very good.
I anticipated you saying that, so, well.